Oh, dude, I think you and I have both been waiting for this one for a hot minute, right? Last of Us season 2.
Yeah, we really were. We had our trailer reaction video that went out when they first dropped that first teaser, where we
Oh
found
yeah,
out it was
right.
coming out in April. So yeah, it's been one of the ones on our radar that we've been seeing creeping up.
I feel like I forgot about this one.
Well,
For me,
there's I mean, this year, I'm just gonna say is that they're jamming a lot into this year, and they're setting
yeah.
up next year pretty nice as well. So might be a really good 2 years.
Yeah, I feel like this one came out of nowhere, and so did What are we doing on next week? Andor season 2. A
Andor
bunch of
season
season
2.
2s. Yeah, this one came out of nowhere. You're right. I forgot that we had done that reaction trailer, but yeah, Last of Us season 2 just started last night. HBO Max, 9 o'clock Eastern. I'll say right off the rip, it's got the kind of tonal consistency and the aesthetic that season 1 had. I love when that happens. I don't like when new directors or new writers switch it up in the writing room and you get things that don't quite, like, the pieces to the puzzle don't quite link up. It's like almost link up, but it's 15% different. This was really consistent, just as a snapshot. What do you think about that before we get into like the story and all that?
I think the color's a little bit lighter. I was noticing that it's not as dark, but I'm thinking that's
Mm,
because they're supposed to be in this town. It's supposed to be like the
yep,
new dawn, so it's going to be a little bit lighter.
yep.
But overall, I think some of the tones are still there. The costume design, and I have to give my hats off to casting. The casting director did a fantastic job in casting the characters. I couldn't tell, but is that the same Tommy?
His brother.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Gabriel Luna. Yeah, same guy.
Okay. Okay, same guy.
He's got the man bun now. I don't think he had that in season 1. We'd have to go
Mhm.
back and look. I think
Yeah.
he had like the shaggier hair, but it's grown out a little bit, I think. But yeah,
And it
same guy.
has been 5 years. They did a
Yes.
5-year time jump.
Yep.
And one of the things is we talked about rumors of this, and before we actually did the episode, we talked about like different directions after they're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, maybe try to stretch it out, maybe try to not do the part that a lot of fans were upset about. And
Uh-huh.
I think they're pivoting hard on that. But I don't think they're doing what the rumor said. The rumor said they were going to do that time in between
Yep.
of Ellie and Joel. And like, no, they're picking up pretty much right
Yep.
where the second game left off, or right where the second game picked
Second
up.
picked up. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
this is exactly how the second game went down. It does that jump that way they can get Ellie out of being 13, 14. What was she in this? She says he's like 19
19.
in this one or something.
Yep.
So she's at like the tail end of like adolescence at this point, but like a young adult. So they can get into some of the relationship themes between her and Dina, which they're in the game. Like that's just how that's like
Mm-hmm.
there's a pivotal arc that goes along with Dina and her. It kind of calls back to how her first crush, if you remember when she was at the Firefly base in Boston. I can't even remember that character's name. It's been too long, but it was the girl that she went into the mall with, and that girl
Yeah,
got bit.
the DLC content.
Yes, the DLC for the first game. So like right off the bat, I'll say, just for the purposes of my channel here, don't come at me in the comments with any of that old nonsense that the game is woke because the main character has a girlfriend. That she had a girlfriend going back ages into the game. It doesn't matter. It doesn't impact the story at all. I'm not here to pass any sort of judgment on that nonsense. So just don't come at me with that stuff. I'm here to talk about the show, and I got plenty of stuff that I'll have that probably take Kingsley from surprise or by surprise about things I didn't like. But that ain't one of them. So just spare me that nonsense. The character was written this way. They didn't flip anything on its head to make her that way. So just stop right there. Let me just put that right out there. But yeah, do 5-year time jump. I think you're right. I just wanted to comment on your point. I think they're doing a hard pivot away from that event. And I don't think we won't spoil that event. I think you know what it is, having not
Mm-hmm.
played the game. I think we talked about it offline and you kind of read up on the situation, why that game was polarizing, and despite it winning all the fake gamer awards, it did not land well with fans. You can get that game on sale like 2 weeks after launch. That's the proof in the pudding right there. People did not respond well to that
Yeah.
particular story beat.
The only thing I saw that it really was winning for was that it had great graphics,
Yes.
which that's a
That's
hallmark of the game.
right.
So
Those photorealistic setting shots, like where in the first game and in the show, where Ellie and Joel arrive in Colorado and they see the giraffes like on the campus, like that's a breathtaking shot as it goes down in real time. When they're leaving Boston in that first game, and you get the ruined cityscape over the highway with the sun coming up behind it. That the game is full of panoramics like that. There's no doubt. And the show captures all of those. And that's one of the things I wanted to start with. I just wanted to remind you, remember in the first episode when Joel is fleeing with his brother and his daughter, they had shot for shot recreated some of that scene where they're in the pickup truck and they get to the fork in the road. There was a house that was on fire out in the background, and they'd pick that up frame by frame. I don't know if they did a whole lot of that in this one. I haven't played the game, so I won't be able to pick those things up unless I research it.
So I did watch some of the cut scenes when we first started doing The Last of Us. It was like all the cut scenes of the 2 games put together into one movie. So I was looking through that, and yeah, they are continuing that trend of going shot for shot with the game. I mean, some points you do have to exaggerate. You have to go a little different. But the big one was the New Year's Eve celebration. That had
with the lights in the barn, like in the town hall or whatever.
And to include the dance as well.
I mean, well, that is a pivotal. That's kind of the thing that sets up the point that we won't spoil here. That's what drives that particular wedge between 2 main characters that kind of sets them even further down the road, a separation that they're kind of working on. But that scene, I think, I've seen that cut from the game. I agree. I think they nailed that. And you know why? Because one of the show writers, or one of the overseers of the show writers, is Neil Druckmann himself, the guy that wrote the game.
Yeah.
It's like he's heavily involved in the making. So that all makes sense. As far as the aesthetic goes, they've nailed that. We know that. But they've also, once again, nailed some of the gameplay elements, which I thought was kind of cool. That part where Ellie and Dina go into the general store when they're on patrol. You notice she had the bit where she picks up the glass bottle and throws it to distract and lead it one way. That's in the game. Even the part, it did a jump right out at me. The part where they got into the store by vaulting up on the hood of a box truck and then up the windshield and then onto the truck and then in on the second level. That's classic video game stuff. And just how they shot it. Looked like a hop and then a mantle and then a hop. You know what I mean? And then a mantle. I'm like, okay. So the vibe is good. The vibe is good with the gameplay stuff so far, too. So I think that they're off to a good start there. What do you think of Dina, the character?
So one, I think she's playing the role quite well. The actress is very well known. I remember from a movie called Instant Family, had Mark Wahlberg and Rose Byrne, where they're foster kids and they take them in as foster parents, and it talks about the difficulties of foster parenting and then trying to build a relationship type thing. It's actually a really good movie, even though it's Mark Wahlberg. But every now and then he hits some good ones.
Couple good ones. We're not talking about The Happening. He's got a couple good ones.
He has a couple good ones, and he has some couple duds.
He's got several duds, but this isn't a Wahlberg stream or Wahlberg video.
No, but yeah,
Dina, so she's from that. Tell me about Dina.
But one of the things is, and I mentioned this in the intro, is that the casting director did fantastic, because look at this comparison right here between Dina in the game and Dina in real life. Yeah.
So they can cast people that actually look like the characters. Interesting. Because of course that's the subject of memes, and we're not going to shame anybody on that nonsense. I think that shit's rude as hell. It's funny, don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to participate on the dog pile.
So yeah, I mean the casting did fantastic. They matched. They had the mannerisms. She looks like someone who late teens, early 20s type character, same type of attitude. Don't like authority. Well, don't like being told what to do when you already know what to do. Type thing.
That's Ellie. Yeah,
that's both of them. They're both rolling their eyes at it, and
but they both they handle it different though. You know what I'm saying? Ellie's straight up like this in your face, and Dina's the funny, charming one. And I guess that maybe that's why the character works so well for me, is because I find her like she's charming, she's very likable, she's cute, and that's the exact opposite of how Ellie is being presented in this show, where Ellie's very
blunt in your face.
Right, blunt in your face. It's beyond rebellion. It's almost borderline like obstinate, explosive, disrespectful. Like I'm like, yeah, that's me. That shit's like nails on a chalkboard. And like, I get it. Like I let that slide when that character was 14. You know what I mean? But like when you're pushed in this world, because that's the thing, it's not 2025 as we live. You know what I mean? It's 2029 or whatever in a post-apocalyptic world. That shit dies fast.
Yeah.
Because you die fast. Like if you're not part of the tribe, like falling in line, like you're just done. You're cooked. Like it's not you're not dropped off at the mall for pizza and video games. Like it ain't the 90s. But so the Ellie character, I wonder, because I think my major gripe with this episode, before we talk about story, is that they laid on the Ellie being a prick way too much.
Yeah,
But then
they really did.
they soften it with Dina though. And it almost, I think it hit almost the balance perfectly, almost. Like where it neutralized a little bit of her harshness, because when she gets put in scenes with Dina, because she likes her tone softens. She gets more unsure of herself. She becomes very much like a teenager around a crush. So I think that kind of worked a little bit. But man, did it start off thick with the prickness.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. Watching it, one, I would have to say it was very slow, the episode in general. But yeah, they went like, she was, I'd say about a 6 compared to the new Ellie. She was like a 6 in season 1, and they turned her up to 11 in this one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, dude. And you know what kind of chaps my ass about that, right? And I'm glad you brought up the comparison between the 2 seasons. I thought that by the end, and dude, I'm on record as saying this stuff. You were there, you've seen it. No, I didn't get my Joel full-on Terminator moment. I didn't get that. But what I did get was when Joel popped off, when he got to Ellie and saved, not from the hospital, but like when he saved her from the cannibal nonsense, like when he showed up, she threw herself into him and cried like a little girl, like the character is supposed to. And that secured the whole wolf and cub thing. Like the Joel and Ellie I know from the game were, that happened right then and there. So you would think 5 years later, like, how does this chick forget about that happened? You know what I mean? Or that she saved his life when he got shot earlier. You know what I mean? Like they have a trauma bond like no other. So she's at a point where she's 19 and they think they can play the card like the therapist said. You're complaining about having a 19-year-old daughter like every other 19-year-old daughter in history. I'm like, not in post-apocalyptic world history, biatch. Not so much. So that didn't land for me.
So one of the things was, and they tried to talk about it, is that this is going to be more of because he lied to her. Like she could tell that he was lying to her about what happened when he saved her. Yeah. So they believe that she picked up on the hint. She doesn't know, but she had that feeling. Yeah. So that's what's playing into this, is that he lied to her.
Well, that's the whole big breakdown between him and the psychiatrist, which was a great scene. We'll talk about that in a minute, because that's another one where it started off weird, but then when you put it in the hands of 2 qualified actors, it carries. And then it hit for me. So like when we were talking before we started recording that you thought it was kind of slow, dude, I sat there riveted by that scene by the time it got going. Dude, remind people, because I'm not sure everybody would know. I had to go back and kind of double check because it's been a hot minute since I played the game. Do you remember what the lie was that he told her that she doesn't know about from the end of the first game series?
Yeah, it was that the Raiders attacked, killed all the Fireflies, and he saved her, and that the Fireflies are giving up on the cure, and that's why he pulled her out.
That it didn't work, that it didn't work, and that they found someone else. That's from the game anyway. I think your version is what the show did.
The show did, yeah.
Right. Cool. All right. So now that we're all on the same page, this episode starts with first scene, the aftermath of that. It's set 5 years ago, and we get a group of Firefly survivors that are burying their dead. So they tell you from jump they're coming for Joel or Joe. We don't know what he looks like, and then the main character that's Abby, who looks nothing like her casting character, which makes sense because in the game she's the Incredible Hulk, which is stupid as shit. And that
facial wise they kind of match.
But Caitlin Dever is really pretty though, and when she gets dolled up, she's really pretty. Abby in the game looks like she got hit with a bag of nickels in most scenes in the game. And then she's built like a straight up linebacker. You managed to find that top picture. That is the thinnest version, and may have been altered somehow, because she is stacked and not in a good way in the game, like where she's bulking up and training like she's gonna go MMA Joel, which is hilarious. But as we know, because we watched Caitlin Dever in No One Can Help You, the Alien movie there on Hulu. That was a good one. We reviewed that, guys. Go check that out.
And I remember her from Last Man Standing with Tim Allen.
Yep. We talked about that when we did the movie review there. So Abby's already setting up her vengeance quest, which is one of the main arcs in the game. You spend most of Last of Us 2, I think something like 70% of the game playing her. Abby. You know what I'm saying? Like Druckmann said, it's the show and the game are matters of perspectives. And again, I love these HBO shows for the after credit stuff. And this is like 2-3 in a row now. We're like House of the Dragon did it. We watched Penguin and they did it over there. Now this show, the after
Dune.
credit stuff. Oh, Dune. Yeah, that's right. There was another one. Where like they sit down and they get intelligent question and responses from the actors, the costume designers, like everybody, the writers, where they get into the heads of what they're doing. Well, I figured by this point Ellie would be here. Oh, and we haven't seen Pedro Pascal get into Joel yet, but I mean, there was a lot of Bella Ramsey as Ellie in this one.
Mm-hmm.
But I love hearing from even Druckmann, who I don't like based on how he handled some scandals around the second game and striking channels that were talking about the game ahead of launch, not sharing copywritten, videos or anything, but striking channels talking about leaks with no video to support it. That seems kind of slimy. But I love hearing them talk about their thought process. I find that stuff fascinating. It's almost like listening to Sanderson do the breakdown on like plotting or or character building. I love that stuff. Let's take it into should we just go into like the plotting direction where this episode's kind of sending things? Should we catch up with Joel? Like what do you want to do?
I mean, we've been talking about characters. Let's go into Joel, and then we'll go into the plot afterwards.
Because we got to really set up Joel's situation. Like I said a minute ago, and I'll let you take it. 5 years later, Joel's very much involved in the town. He's a construction guy. So he's like the chief engineer, I'm going to call him. Tommy, his brother, is on like the high council with his wife, whose name I can't remember. They have a kid. The kid's name is Benji. I remember that, but I don't think they ever said the wife's name. They said it last year. They didn't say it in this episode. But anyway,
no, they didn't say it in this episode. But it was last year when he introduced them.
When they got into it's Jackson, Wyoming. It's now a much larger, secure area. It's like a big block of a city or multiple blocks of a city walled off from like outside world up there in Wyoming, which is kind of cool. But Joel's not fully integrated in a way. Like it's because he says your council, and then the wife reminds him. Tommy's wife says, "No, it's your council too." So he's still man on the outside, but he's part of it. He's building their shit. They had conflict early on. It was interesting.
Ellie had the same type of thing. Like if you are part of this community, and she was like, "Don't pull punches," and then heads out.
Oh yeah, did we? That was the first scene of the Joel and Ellie side of the story. She's training MMA. She beats the crap out of a guy bigger than her, but she took him down with the triangle and he tapped. And she's a psycho, so she almost broke his arm or some shit. But then they were talking about setting up for the New Year's. It's a New Year's celebration, is what they're setting up, right? With the lights and shit. And the other guy asked her, if you're gonna come, can you come help out? Be part of the community, FaceTime, da da da. But Joel's under pressure. They do a thing with the mayor. I'm just gonna call her the mayor. We can't build things quick enough. You're letting too many people in. I know people are gonna bitch about that, like it's a southern border United States political current day thing. Dude, I thought of that, but it's not at all what they're going for. It's not. This gets played out in every zombie movie ever, where there's a secure location and limited supplies and shit like that. There's always that plot point. It's standard.
And trying to balance resources versus refugees.
And taking into account manpower and having enough people available to build the crap that the mayor wants to build. So they hit it with enough shades of gray and set it in world where I'm like, all right, anybody that's going to tell me this is like a border thing, I'm like, no, this isn't like a migrant caravan thing. Like, just please let me just get through one show. But like, I hate the fact that I even considered it, because we've been hit with these talking points in like every show we've seen for like 5 years. So I'm recalibrating that. So that didn't annoy me too bad. But she did hit him with a zinger when the conversation was over. She made it a point to remind him that, at one point you were the refugee.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, but now I'm in charge of building everything. So I'm not on for the free ride. Like, I didn't just show up, my hand up,
Yeah, the build-o-meter.
the constructometer. They had a great callback to it, because when Tommy shows up, Joel says, your wife's busting my balls about not building stuff fast enough. And then Tommy goes, you told her about the dial, right? Oh, that was pretty funny. That was a nice little, it was a quick setup payoff, like the same scene. They get like 5 minutes apart. But the first banger scene for Joel is the psychiatrist. And you set that up. I'd like to get your take on it as a not behavioral health, not medical person.
Well, as someone who has been to therapy on a few different occasions, it was different, especially because the therapist was drinking, which I mean, completely unprofessional, but understanding why, and then like, why is she even helping him if she hates him? But I guess she has that somewhat of a professional behavior behind her, because she's literally helping the guy who killed her husband. So, which I don't remember when that happened. I don't think it happened the first season. I think it happened in between.
Happened off camera.
Okay.
And we don't, and not in the game as I recall. So this is something I think they built to create a little bit extra conflict to kind of drive these scenes home. You will get a payoff for this in the next episode or two. The circumstances by which Joel had to kill Eugene, because part of that conversation when she got there was about, you know, I understand why, and she said, I understand you had to do what you did. It's how you did it.
Yeah.
So there's some thought went into that, but the psychiatrist scene is interesting right off the rip, not just because of the dynamic between Joel and the husband.
Because it's Kevin's mom.
Wait, what?
It's Kevin's mom.
Kevin's mom. It's Catherine O'Hara. That's right. I was going to ask you if you picked up on that. I hope there's a character named Kevin that shows up, and maybe she can do the thing. It might be too much. I don't know. But Joel pays her in bad weed, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like, that was a bit of a head scratcher, but I was like, okay. But when he shows up, I thought it was funny because he had said to Dina previous, he was like, don't tell anybody I'm in therapy. And I'm like, seems kind of random. I might not really.
Gen X, we don't like telling people when we need help.
Saying. But it was just funny that he said that to a 20-year-old girl who didn't need to know he was in therapy. But anyway, and then I get to thinking, I'm like, it's in post-apocalyptic world, you know, the last kind of like, there's jobs you just don't need. And I'm not sure that therapy is one of the ones that's going to save society after the fall, but they're 5 years later, they're semi-secure. They're planning New Year's Eve festivals. Like maybe they are on a rebound and can do with.
Yeah, and everyone has trauma, especially if you're surviving a apocalyptic type event. You're gonna have trauma, and it does help to have someone there that has a professional means on how to handle this type thing and be there to talk to.
Dude, I got the degree and the license. I know what you're talking about. But I'm like, it's kind of like we got a hierarchy of needs, as it's called, you know, in psychology, where it's like, you know, your physical safety comes first, and then you can and all these other things. You've taken some psych stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But I say, well, I think they're far enough removed from scraping by day to day that maybe they can have a psychotherapist like in the community who's doing that kind of trauma work, you know, to help people adjust. But I'm like, day one after the fall in like quarantine military zone Boston, there's no fucking therapist there too.
No.
There's no. She's out there digging ditches and on like grave detail. Like
yeah, and that was more of a military type setting, anyways. So
it was the end of the government, right?
Yeah,
it was the end of that. But so they set up this scene where Joel's bitching about his relationship with Ellie, and then the psychiatrist like flips on him, kind of, and he's like, you know, I'm not gonna help you anymore because you're lying to me. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And she goes into her thing, and she's talking to herself out loud, but also to Joel. Just say the thing. Oh, should I say the thing? I want to say the thing, but I'm not gonna. And she talks herself into basically revealing, dude, I hate you for what you did.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shit, I said it. It's out there. Can't take it back. Now it's your turn. And Pedro Pascal, for all his real life douchiness with, you know, things he says about certain people who vote certain ways, turn it on. Got the waterworks going, got misty eye, got the little lip quivering things. I mean, he activated actor mode. Can't hate him. He's going to be a terrible Reed Richards, but that's neither here nor there. He hit this. This works. So I wanted to get your take on their conversation, like that segment of their conversation, how they lead that. So it was good.
No, I think that was great of someone who did not want to share that part of what he was going through. Like he was trying to have the superficial stuff fixed and not really get to the deep issues, and having it pulled out of him. I think that's exactly what Joel would do. I think Pedro Pascal played it great. The one criticism I have is on the hair and makeup and wardrobe for him. Is he in his 50s? Because he looks like he's like, the way he's moving, it looks like he's like 50, 60 years old with a bad back and a broken knee.
He shouldn't be in his 60s. In the game, Joel at this point would probably be late 40s, early 50s. But that version of the character in the game is not dad bod. It's not superhero. It's not Captain America, but it's like the role that Troy Baker voices in the game is very much a guy that's like living survivalist smuggler Han Solo kind of style guy. So Pedro Pascal is probably carrying a couple extra pounds, but the attire is all very Western outdoors. The denim, the jean jacket, the work coats, the stuff like that's on point. That stuff fits. I think Pedro Pascal is probably a little flabbier than what they needed, but like they hired him for the acting and not the obvious comparison there, the obvious physical comparison. So, but I thought it was a good scene because it ends on him just saying, "I saved her," because that sets up all the kind of the rest of the because Ellie's still a mystery in this community. They don't know she's immune.
Yeah, no one knows.
No one except Joel and I think Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy knows.
Tommy knows
because they had that scene where after they did the sniping mission,
right?
She started screaming it out.
Which I've been bit. Woo!
Yeah,
she made our spoiler sound. It was kind of funny. But nobody else does, and we know nobody else does because when they infiltrate the general store or whatever it is, and she actually takes a bite from a new enemy that we'll talk about in a couple minutes. So I don't know if that thing's in the game or if they invented that for the show also, which was pretty cool because it ups the threat level. She takes a fairly nasty bite to the gut. She doesn't lose like any flesh or anything, but you can see teeth marks. It looks like a bite on her arm. So when she gets she covers up as her team bails her out. She covers up when she gets back to her apartment or her garage home or whatever. She takes her knife and cuts it into like a circular wound. She could like, I don't know, man, I fell on glass or something. And then she stitches herself up. That way it doesn't look like a bite. I thought that was clever. That was some clever shit.
One of the things I was wondering is that the way it's going to get in? Because at some point it has to get into the secured. I mean, this is just, Zombie 101. The infection has to get into the secure location.
It has to ruin the community. And I hate that part so much.
Yeah, it's just a trope that you have to get through. And I was thinking, how does it spread through the bite? And, it's like sitting spores and other type of fungus in there. So wouldn't the spores still be inside of her? Does it already take to her blood, or would it like leak out if she's bleeding? So it's point of contention.
It's if we're faking the science for the show for shits and giggles, just between buddies, right? If she's bitten and infected, it would travel bloodstream until she can expose somebody else via the blood or the bite. But because she's immune, it would have had to have been literally that somebody else touches her blood. It touches like whatever blood is on her and like ingest it. It should never be topical through like unbroken skin. But I mean, they showed her sanitize the knife, and maybe she cauterizes it later or something. I don't know, like who knows. But it'll show that wound is now secure. I guarantee Dina sees the scar and asks her about it at some point. It feels like that whole setup is rife for follow-up later, I think. Like, I don't think she's out of the woods for that bite.
Yeah.
But we'll see where that goes. The community trope I hate because I'm like, can I just get a breather for like a couple episodes before something gets in? But we see how it gets in.
We see how it actually gets in later. Yeah. And that was one of the things it led to with this new threat. Like it's learning, it's getting smarter because it did stealth. It watched its victim. It moved. It didn't just straight charge at him like how it used to be, which I think will help the show because you get bored of just dumb zombies running after you.
Shamblers are too Walking Dead for this show.
Yeah,
this show is based on a game that has multiple enemy types that do have different levels of aggression. I love that part where Ellie squared off with it and she was like, "Run at me, fucker, do it." And it's just like, nope. And it just bolts somewhere else. And like, oh, all right. And then they even mentioned, she saw some shit she might not in the after credits.
Yeah,
she's confronted with something that she's not ballsy enough to take on straight up.
Yeah,
and she needed that, because we've already seen the clickers, we've seen the shamblers, we even saw the giant one. Remember in that episode, the giant one in town?
Yeah, that came from the ground.
That was dope.
Was that in St. Louis?
It was in St. Louis or Kansas City. It was somewhere in the Midwest. It was that arc. Yeah. Because Joel had to what did he do? He blew something up to cause fire, and then they bailed. I think
and then the boy was bit, the little boy,
the brothers,
and the brother killed him, and then he killed himself.
Great scene from. Oh my god, that shit broke me in half in the game. That was good, too good. But yeah, I think that Ellie is gonna go. She's gonna have to level up her skill base. And again, I think that they laid on the prick level to 11, like you said up front. but then we see her soften with the Dina stuff and actually not marry Sue. Let's call them stalkers, just because I don't have a name. I don't know what they're called.
That sounds good.
Probably stalker. I mean, she even used the word when she gets debriefed by the council later, which I thought was another good scene. It was pretty decent. Like how they know, like, oh no, Dina's lying. Ellie, I believe Ellie. She seemed like she was pretty convinced she saw what she saw, except for the part where she got bit. She needs a stalker. She needs, like you said, to be humbled into being scared again. Because if our lead character isn't scared in this world, why am I? I already know she's got plot. She has literal plot armor being immune. Like she can get ripped to pieces.
She's not going to get to pieces. She can still die. She just can't get infected.
Who was the first smuggler that was trying to move her? Told her that. Like, yeah, listen, sis, you can you're immune to like getting all zombified, but one of them could rip your eyeballs out. You're probably going to want to get shot then, you know? I thought that was pretty good. So the Ellie stuff, I think, worked itself out there. I'm trying to think if there were any other big scenes, because now that you say it, I think there was a lot of good developmental stuff, like the psychiatrist. Oh, the dance. Let's talk about the dance, because that's right out of the game. They didn't.
Yeah. Even the shot from the behind her head and seeing the light, that's actually a shot straight from the game. Like I said, they followed that. They let me rephrase that. They kept that going from the last season, is that they're trying to match the game as much as they can, but have to add in other stuff to make it a live action show. Yeah. That's better.
Oh, solid. So the dance is set up pretty good. The only thing I think they added is that Dina was with Jesse first. So she's, functionally bi for the show. I think in the game, her and Ellie are just a thing when the game starts.
Yeah, because I think it starts right around the New Year dance, that whole beginning part that wasn't in the game.
So they added that little love triangle that isn't really a love triangle thing. And the Jesse character is okay. I think he has if I remember coverage of the Last of Us 2 game, I saw that name pop up in a couple of places. So I think he's fairly significant. And he had enough speaking lines here that he's clearly not just some like scrub that's going to be.
Same name with Kat, who led their patrol. Yep. She was I think she actually dies in the raid in the game.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, she made it back to base in this one. But the dance goes down like it does in the game, which was cool. And not just the aesthetic, but like it's Ellie being unsure of herself. She couples up with Dina. Some a-hole interrupts them dancing and kissing. And at first it just looks like, okay, well, they're in a church, they're in a family event. But then this jackass throws the slur at him, ruins the moment. And then Joel comes in like exit stage left like a fucking linebacker and destroys this dude. And I'm like, get him, Dad, get him. And then what does fucking Ellie do?
Yeah.
We get it. You're 19. You don't need his help. But this dude just like called you something terrible in front of the town. And all he did was push him. It ain't his fault the guy was drunk and he fell. Get over yourself. I don't need your fucking help. Well, you didn't exactly step to this guy when he said what he said. So maybe you did need his help.
That is what my criticism from first season and this season is that they do use explicitives, like the lazy writing explicitives. Like you didn't need that in there. And most of her language through this, they try to do it to make her seem edgy, and it just made her seem stupid.
I agree. I think that there's a lot of language in the episode from a lot of characters at different points, but I'm not sure. I mean, in a Wild West post-apocalyptic situation, I expect adults to drop a couple F-bombs here and there. I've used 4 of them since we started recording. It is just in some people's vocabulary. I don't think they're going to go back to the slur that they used again, because I think they used that like an exclamation point. Like they made their point there. This guy's a dick, or he was drunk, or whatever his thing was. But I don't think they're going to go back to that again. But I'm annoyed that Ellie went that route with trying to dress Joel down in front of everybody for being
in front of the whole town. Yeah,
that seemed kind of lame to me. But she's feeling that though, because by the end of the episode, when she stumbles on home from the dance, Joel's out there on the porch playing guitar that he's restringing for her, and she doesn't say shit. She just looks all like ashamed of herself, in my opinion, and kind of dips over to her door, because they're in like separate. She's in the garage of like the single family that like he's living in, so they're still close, So I think they're kind of, they go back and forth in a way, and I think maybe that's good. The push pull, maybe that's what this show needs. That it can't be too straightforward. I don't know.
We'll definitely see. I mean, it's episode 1 of the second season. They're going to try to make this its own thing where it doesn't need the first season to carry the story. So I understand trying to set new tensions, set new, was this a new status quo, I should say, because the whole thing, that's kind of how you do a story. The beginning is you're at a status quo, something happens that changes the status quo. You try to return to the status quo. You're at a new status quo.
Yeah. They get you up to speed real quick on what I think the growing threat is going to be. We see that in the council meeting. I think it's in the after credits where Tommy and the other group are around. They're talking about the oh no, that was in the episode where how many shamblers it took to take down a grizzly.
Yeah,
6,
they were talking about that.
Right, he goes 6 isn't a horde, and then his wife's like, yeah, not yet.
Not yet.
So they know, and then we get that there is a scene though 100% in the after credits where you basically see like the fucking army of White Walkers a bunch of somethings are moving quick. It looked like.
Yeah,
I've never known them all to run, but if they're all running, that's some crazy shit.
So
and that could overrun your base.
To talk about the after credit scene, which is really like a trailer type thing. I don't think it's just for the next episode. No, I think that's going to be a whole season type thing of what we're going to see throughout the season. I think in episode 2 we'll see the trailer for the next episode where that starts. But this was the initial entry, the entry point of the season. And here's what to expect for the rest of the season.
I was thinking that because like in that mashup of clips, there's like 9 major gut punches that you could associate with those clips. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And none of them are the one that people are going to be either loving or hating, which is kind of wild.
The casual, I think the casuals will be really upset because of what's going to happen and who it happens to.
Yeah, but see, we can talk about it without talking about it, and I'll say it vaguely. The way they set up Abby in this show, where she's on the hunt for Joel 5 years ago, and then the last scene in this show, in this episode, I think, right, was Abby's group looking down on Jackson, but in the distance, like miles away, but they're on their way to where they need to
be. They're still about a day and a half hike away. But mostly because they're in the mountains area of Wyoming.
It's snow and the wildlife and zombies and shit. But the important part is that in the game, if I remember right, it's not that Abby and her group found Joel in Wyoming, or found her in Jackson, like in town where he's established all his people. Is I believe Joel and Ellie stumble upon Abby and her larger group elsewhere. And I don't think they ever bring Abby's group back into Integrate or anything like that. That's very Walking Dead, because we have that scene that we see, and I think it's in the post credits, where Abby's group, they're in a building somewhere, they're looking out a window and they're talking about like getting it done. Like, how do we do this? When are we going to do this? Whatever they said. So they are making some changes, I think, to how this goes down. Maybe I'm wrong, but it looked like this is something that we knew they were going to probably not able to be translating shot for shot, frame for frame, idea for idea. Because I think they need to punt that as far to the end of this season as they can.
Yep. Especially if they want a third season.
Which they do. 3 is the big number. It's the magic number for these streaming seasons. And with no third game on the horizon, because I think Naughty Dog Studios is working on that other stupid ass space story driven game that Druckmann's involved in. Like, there is no third game. Like, that's not coming here. So whatever they do from season 2 onward is all original stuff. Maybe he had story notes for a game that he never got to make. Maybe that could work.
Yeah. It's kind of like when they finished Game of Thrones, was off their interview with George R.R. Martin and not a book.
We know how that went. Yeah. Yeah. Still, people still hating that. But yeah, I don't know what else we can say about episode 1. Lots of good setup, I guess. A little bit of violence there with the stalking scene. We see where all the relationships are kind of coming into play and working out. We know Abby's on her way to try to execute her mission. And I think we just got to wait and see next week.
Yeah.
But let's do this to wrap up then. As a season starter, rate this on a 10 scale for me before you do the 10 scales like just an episode of this show. Is this effective? 10 scale.
I'd put it at a 5.
Ooh. Not what I thought you were going to go with as an opener. What more do you need to get this to be a 7? as a season opener. Sorry, not a series, season.
Yeah, season opener.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just hurt my expectation. I thought there would be more. It hit all the key points of where everybody is at the start of the season.
Yeah.
But there was nothing that really set in motion except for the Abby story. You don't see anything set in motion for anyone else's story.
True. And that was a bookend. And that was literally the beginning and the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So did you need, like, if we were spitballing the idea in our writer's room, right? Did you need one more big zombie scene? Did you need Joel throwing a punch at somebody? Like, did you need Ellie throwing a punch at the guy at the dance? Like, what would have elevated you 2 points? Like, pitch me the scene that bumps you 2 points. You're good at this shit. You do this shit every time, all the time we do this.
Yeah.
You need a king cut.
I probably wouldn't have Ellie the way she was. And I believe that when they went out on that patrol, one of them should have died to a bigger threat that came back to the town, because you'd have to find a way. I know they didn't want to interrupt the dance scene because the dance scene is very important. Yeah, but you did still put people out on, like, we'll just heighten the guard. They'll be upset about it, but we can't bring down the community type for just canceling the dance for a threat. They don't know exactly where it is. I think they should have heightened the threat a little bit more instead of them just believing that they're safe.
Now, when you say one of them should have died on patrol, I assume you're not talking about Dina. You're talking about like Kat or one of the other 2 dudes.
Yeah, one of the non-essentials.
You need to lose a red shirt, basically. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. All right. Now, then, as an episode of The Last of Us, is your score still a 5, or does it go higher because of the quality of the episode?
I still think it's right there in the middle because of the dragging and everything like that. It felt longer than the episode was. I thought I was sitting there for like 2 hours.
Oh, and you hardly ever say that. So I got to take that into some serious consideration then. I mean, it did run 59 minutes. It gave you HBO Showtime. It did.
Yeah, it did. But it just felt longer. It was like they moved. I don't know how I didn't. It's just the way I felt when I was watching it. Like, they moved from point to point to point. It was easy transition. Everything that happened needed to happen. But it just felt like, for some reason, it was like they were moving in molasses.
I could see that, because I thought I was going to come at this with like the criticism that it was feelings in hallways, but it was like, and I can't even remotely throw that at the therapist conversation, because that actually moved the needle for me.
And that's supposed to be feelings in hallways.
And it was written and it was effective. They did, when there's subtext involved. And it's carried by a performance, like, like with quality actors like Catherine O'Hara, who can do the whole not look psycho when she's like, I want to say this, but I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say, like, there was some gravity there to that, I thought, because she wells up too, where she's like, she's about to ball out because of what happened between her family and Joel, as she's sitting here, and I believe authentically trying to help him. Like, I don't think she's going to pull the knife on him, which was funny because when he stood up off the couch, did you notice she flinched back?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a great little beat where she's like, this man has been provoked to like amazing levels of violence before. They don't need, that town probably doesn't have all the details of what Joel did with the cannibals and at the Firefly base, but they for sure know that dude Rambo'd that girl out of that hospital. I guarantee that story's been told far side. Hell yeah.
And I mean, if you compare back to episode 1, season 1, we saw what happened to his daughter, which was the exact beginning of the game. And then just seeing the broken man he was there, they're trying to put him back in that, but in a more social type setting, because he looks like the broken man again, but he's a little bit more social, and he's trying to like ride that line so he doesn't fall back into it. But a lot of what he does puts him right back in that broken man he was in season 1. And it's like, you shouldn't have gone back. I think his character should have been, forward, different than he was. He could still be sad, but not the completely broken man where I go to work, I fix a fuse, and then I watch my adopted daughter just treat me like crap.
But that's the other thing I don't get is, like, there's like 4 people, I think, in this episode that tell him that she's not his daughter. And I'm like, how does that track? Did you guys play the first game? Like, maybe they did. Like, Dean is the only one that, I think Dean is the only one that doesn't say that.
Yeah.
The mayor definitely tells him that. The therapist tells him that. I'm like, I don't know, man. I killed like 40 people and like 7 dogs and 400 zombies to get here. Like, I think I can say, yeah, I don't have to say she's my whatever, I'm her whatever. Like, no, like in this world, I'm dad. Because he even has that line in therapy, or with Dina, I think it was, where he says, you know, I never made it this far with my own daughter.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know, man. He did okay with Sarah. She was okay. Everybody liked her for the 15 minutes she was on the show and not bleeding out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. I'll rate it. Did I probably give it a 7.5? Like it carried for me. The performances were good enough. I felt like I was back in that world. That was good enough. I love the video game elements, like we were talking about, the bottle throw, the vaulting, the floor collapsing is straight out of a video game cutscene. You know what I mean? She's kind of getting a little cocky. Oh, you know, we came in and we did this. Ah, and she falls down. Now see, if she had sprained her ankle or broken her leg or some shit and was in danger, that'd have been shit. But like, she falls through the floor with like her sidearm, a loaded shotgun that she missed, and her knife, with Dina and a crew outside, and the only thing between them and her is a set of doors that are chained. I'm like, fucking, can somebody bolt cut her or some shit, or I don't know, break a window? I don't know.
Yeah.
And then fucking Dina
the...
just comes down the stairs.
Yeah.
And Dina found stairs. I'm like, I don't know. So I mean, but it felt like video gamey enough there. So I like that. So, I won't go higher than a 7.5 or an 8 because there's something about prick Ellie that I can't stomach, because in that world I just don't think that shit works. But again, I can't remove points down to 5 because it is softened by Dina. Dina's the standout right now as the new character to me, and a great performance by the psychotherapist again. I think that was enough for me. 7.5. We'll see where it goes. It's not like I'm not down. Like, I'm in. Like, it's The Last of Us. I want to see more of this. And I know you're not gonna bail on a show after one episode. So yeah, we'll continue doing what we're doing.
Yep, we will be continuing The Last of Us as we go through the whole season. We'll be dropping videos possibly every Tuesday of our review and recap of the Sunday night's episode. So please come back and join us, and go ahead and hit that subscribe, hit that notification so you don't miss when we drop new videos. And don't forget our podcast that comes out every Wednesday night, 9 to 10 Eastern, Frostcast, where this week we're going to be finishing up the Daredevil, because the series, or the season finale, not series, season finale is tomorrow night.
Yeah, let's hope, fingers crossed, that they stick that one. Dude, no more profound goodbyes. Get us out.
Well, see ya.